another episode of Radio with Pictures in the Field for 2017 from our Central Divisional Consultations. In 2015, the discussions were focusing on the National Development Plan. Last year, for 2016, discussions were more on the Tropical Cyclone Winston recovery and response efforts. This year, our consultations are making the connection between development and disaster risk reduction. In previous episodes for this series, we heard from women leaders from Navua, Nausori, and Lami, also bringing in representatives from the Disability Network. In this episode, I'm joined by Kriti Kumar, who is the youth coordinator for Women's Information Network Fiji, as well as Gyan Prasad, who is the Publicity Officer, also for WINET Fiji. We're also joined by Alan Steve, a representative from Youth Champs for Mental Health. Hi, Alan. And also Sulique Waqa, the Creative Director for Haus of Khameleon. Morning, Sulique.
Nyatra.
Okay, ladies, we want to talk about development and resilience, and what does that mean for us in our communities, because we're in Messina, which is part of the Greater Sula area. Kriti, for you as a young woman, I believe you work at ANZ, is that right? Yes. So what does development mean for you?
For me, development means educating our young girls and not asking them to stay home if they face any difficulties at school or work, and not getting them married at an early age. As for us, in the Indian culture, as soon as a girl is 21, the parents and the family, they mostly go after, when will you get married? Will you get married when you get old? Then how will you look after your children and stuff? So I think for young women's development, I think they should be encouraged to go to school, attend for higher education, and then find a suitable job for themselves so that they are on their feet before they get married, and they will be able to look after their families as well.
Thank you so much, Kriti. Gyan, you are a former school teacher, but you're also, I discovered just this morning, you are the Vice President of the Fiji Teachers Union, the Women's Week. So for you, what does development mean for yourself?
Development for me means to, like we are working a lot with the women's groups, development for them would be to make them more actively involved in a lot of work for the community, where they could be self-sufficient and they could cooperate a lot with others, and at least lead towards progress of the community and the nation.
So really the personal development of young women. Thank you. Alan, how long have you been a member of Youth Champs for Mental Health?
It's been 3 months.
3 months, so you're quite new. So for you as a young woman of a mental health consumer with mental health advocacy, what does development mean for you?
Development means pushing forward all the women in a level that they are supposed to be on, so that they can be a great leader for tomorrow.
Great leader. And also, I remember you were speaking earlier this week about the discrimination in your community and the stigmatization. Talk a little bit more about that. What's that like for a young woman in your community?
As a young trans, personally, security is very important to me, because I grew up in a community with many different races of peoples. Discriminations and violence are the problem that us trans are facing. And as an advocate for Youth Champs for Mental Health, we are trying our best to silence those kind of stigmatized and those kind of differentiate that we're facing in our community.
Thank you so much, Alan. So listening to Alan, you're also a very involved member of the Trans Women Network, and you're a very active member of the activist community. For you, what does development mean? And hearing from Alan.
To me, development, it's important to talk about and have a conversation about development when it is framed from the lived experience and realities of marginalized women. When we include women, that is development. When we include marginalized women in the conversation, in the development conversation, whether it's national, community, district, to me that is development. It's ensuring that everyone is heard and they're part of the strategies.
Thank you. So I'm guessing what we're talking about at this table is really the personal safety and security of women of all diversities when it comes to development in our communities. Yep. Okay, thank you. So I'm mindful that we're in Suva right now, but around us we're being battered by tropical depressions, right, from one side and from the western side. And I'm just curious to understand, what would safety and security look like in times of extreme weather events when it comes to floods or cyclones? Sulique, coming to you. We were talking about, in earlier conversations, evacuation centres. And I know in previous episodes of Made with Pictures, that was a very big concern for members of the trans community, their safety and security. So when it comes to development, how can we be inclusive?
One of the particular institutions that we focused on was the security sector, particularly the police force, where we talk about neighborhood watch in terms of ensuring that women are represented at least 30% in the neighborhood watch committees and that they're part of the planning. For example, if we have a community evacuation drills, that women are part of that as well. So it's really about that in terms of preparing for disasters and post-disasters as well.
Thank you. Kriti and Gyan, yesterday we came up with these lovely resilience flowers in terms of analysing our personal issues and security issues. When it comes to women's representation at the local level, picking up on what Sulique was just saying, the neighbourhood watchstones, working with the police, how can we include women's participation and representation? Because you said about the 30%. What are your thoughts on that? Kriti.
My thoughts would be that we encourage our women leaders, and not only leaders, but also those women who stay at home, maybe who are concerned with their domestic duties and looking after their children.
Home managers.
So we can go to them and we can encourage them to take part in our neighborhood watch schemes. Like they'll be at home after they finish their work, maybe get together with other ladies of the community and have a chit chat on how they can keep their children safe, and where when they are not around, where can they send their children to, and also even at like in a community where I'm staying currently, we have in Lodala Beach here in Bulay Road. What we have there is our own neighborhood watch scheme. So currently it's all the households there, and we have weekly meetings, and we've set up a signboard, and we have been closely working with the police post that is near the Vivres Plaza, so that when we have our regular meetings, they do come to assist us. And they advise us on other security measures that we can take on because it's part of an industrial area.
Yes.
And there have been a few break-ins and theft that have gone. So what they do is they help us to go to the right people, and then also advise us on other security measures like having security guards or having pets in the home.
So it's that partnership.
The partnership,
the
local community and the police.
I know Lodala Beach very well, Bulay Road. Gyan, I'd like to come across to you. Earlier this week you said something around the police response in the area that you're from, which is Valley Level. It's too small, and it's not enough to cater for the population in Valley Level. So when you're hearing Kriti speak about the partnership with the police force, what is that like for you?
For the partnership with police force, I would like to suggest that we need more interactions with the communities and the police force. So what the police force needs is more human resources for them to reach out to the communities. It would be better if they work with the women leaders, women who are involved in religious-based, faith-based organizations, or in mothers' clubs or in youth groups, because they would be able to get others into the community. And then if the police start working with the community, then there is more interactions, and people would have more confidence in the security forces, and that will lead towards reduction in the deaths.
I'd like to ask a question in terms of improving women leaders' participation in local policing and local security. There is $1 million allocated to the Women's Plan of Action, which is supposed to implement the national gender policy. Do you think $1 million is enough to cover the whole of Fiji, or even the Central Division, in terms of increasing women's participation?
If we divide that $1 million into per capita, I think that would be too little, because we look at the total women population, even for a community or for an area, it's much, much higher. And then if we really want to train women leaders, there are so many things that we need to do to work with them. So I think the financial assistance needs to be increased in terms of increasing women participation.
Thank you, Gyan. I'd like to come over to you, Alan. As a young mental health advocate, as a young trans woman, when it comes to looking at the budget and what you want to see prioritised in the budget, I mean, Gyan was saying that the Women's Plan of Action is not enough. When it comes to the budget, what do you want to see prioritised by the government?
I would think that the government really have to provide more resources to cater for those that needs help, for those who facing a lot of stress and also mental
health. So with youth champs for mental health, would you like to see more support from government in terms of that partnership as well?
Yeah, we need more counseling and of course raise more awareness on how to reduce and overcome these coping mechanisms.
Sulique, for you, coming on to the National Development Plan, and if we were to imagine that we could, make a submission to the National Development Plan, what is the one thing that you want to see written into the National Development Plan for yourself as a member of the trans community, as an activist in the trans community?
I think one of the things that we've been pushing from the past years in terms of any development plans, whether it's national or community, that it must be inclusive of women in all our diversities, whether we're talking about even in times of disaster, post-disasters, the cluster areas. When we talk about safety and security cluster, it needs to represent women in all our diversity, and that includes transgender women. So that's basically one of the key recommendations that we've been continuously to push. Because it hasn't been addressed, by government or by the divisional offices in the past, this is something that we're still carrying on in terms of pushing for representative key populations in all of these areas. 30% is something that we call on.
I just want to come to the WINET ladies. For your recommendations in the National Development Plan, what's the one thing that you want to see included?
I would say more resources for security and safety, and that can be human resource and financial resources, and also if there can be trainings organized for our men in the community so that they are able to understand the important role of women. So as I said yesterday with our resilience flowers, some men, they do not want their wives or daughters to go out in the public and speak or be part of any communities. So that actually becomes a barrier for us women to go out there and become leaders or become part of members in our community. I personally feel, together with WINET has been part of this. I have actually been part of this organization for the past 2 years. And then it has actually led me to assist women who are in need. And at times of Winston, the previous president, and I, we actually went out and we distributed dignity packs, food packs to the women. And I think the major resource here would be the human resource, to educate more women and also men with regards to women's needs, so that they are able to understand and we are able to provide a secure and safe environment for us women of all diversities.
Thank you very much, Kriti. Thank you, Gyan. Thank you, Alan and Sulique. And you heard it from the Nasinu women leaders that they want investment in terms of resourcing and in terms of capacity building to support women's participation in local governments, inclusive of women of all diversities, including young women and Sogi women as well. And that was it for this episode of Radio with Pictures in the Field. Thank you.